Hi, Trav. Thanks so much for joining me today on this beautiful day here in San Francisco. Clear skies, about 60 degrees, very untypical of a weather here during this time. So I do appreciate you. Where are you in the world?
Mate, I am in, where am I? I haven't left this country for quite some time. I'm in a place called Ocean Grove, which is about an hour and a half out of Melbourne in Australia. So, and it is, well, it's Tuesday where you are, and it's Wednesday morning where I am. So I'm from the future. Yes. Stoked to be on the show, Con.
I love that. I love speaking to people in the future. It gives me hope.
Yeah, well, we've got this thing called the coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard of it yet.
So,
All good, man.
well, Trev, tell us about yourself. A little bit of background. What do you do for a living?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that call because when you're on a plane, remember those dark old ages, the ages when we used to jump on airplanes and go places.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, so what do you do? Well, they call me the bucket list guy. So I run around for the last 10 years. I've been running around the world doing my bucket list, and then companies, organization, conferences, meeting planners, etc., pay me as a keynote speaker to talk about my adventures and hopefully inspire audiences. So I've created a business around my bucket list. So being the bucket list guy, someone actually called me the bucket list guy about 10 years ago after the first seminar that I put on. And so I had a list to do before I die since I was 18, actually written down since I was 18. Not a lot of people knew that about me. And I started in this first seminar, I started sharing my list to do before I die. And it really inspired everyone within the group. And then at the end of it, one of the audience members said, "Hey, how's all this list to do before you die stuff?" This is 10 years ago. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy. And I went, ping, light bulb moment, went home and registered the bucketlistguy.com. And I've been doing that ever since. So my life and my business are really the same. Prior to that, I went through a bout of depression. So, albeit mild compared to what I've heard since, but instead of going on sort of heavy antidepressants, which was like a band-aid kind of fix, I decided to sum up the courage, get right into, personal development, trying to understand the psychology or psychology or the root cause of what I was going through, because I didn't want to like sleepwalk through my life with drugs. So I went into personal development, did everything that you could imagine, learned life coaching, NLP, positive psychology, a Carnegie principle, law of attraction, all that sort of stuff. And it became a big soup of just personal development. And then it was actually one of my mates said, sort of at the end of all that, "Why don't you teach this stuff, Trav?" And that's when I went, ping, light bulb moment. It sort of justified all the money and time that I'd spent on this stuff. And then I put on this talk, and that's how it all evolved. Prior to the depression, I was the first to franchise personal fitness training studios in Australia. And I did that for 20 years, started with one client, nearly over 2 million personal training sessions, tens of thousands of clients across Australia, and up to 300 personal trainers working under our umbrella. I did that for 20 years. So my identity with it was in health and fitness. And I started personal training like back in the mid 90s. So I'm a little bit older, mate. So
I can't tell.
started this. Yeah, I started this thing called, started really one of the first personal trainers kind of running around Melbourne back in the day, and always loved helping people. But now it's like first 20 years was personal training, and now it's kind of personal development, I guess.
That's great. I also come from the very similar background. I love fitness as well. I think it's a great way to move your body and get your mind in a state of flow, because when you're in a state of flow, everything just comes naturally. So I love that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it's an essential part of it. Like we were all working from home, and it just sets up a really good routine. I'm very rigid, very rigid.
Mhm.
I've got to be flexible at times, but I'm lucky to be with a partner, and we, Tracy, my partner, and I, and the whole family, we're active, and it was less. It was more about aesthetics when I was, younger.
Mm.
It's not. It's really about mental health and energy and vitality. And I've got two 13-year-old, nearly 14-year-old boys in my life now, and just keeping up with them. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, yeah. The whole mental fitness is really important, especially if
Don't
you're.
mind seeing a few cuts and shreds and that sort of thing occasionally, and a few abs still. But that's it's less about that, more about the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, achieving both it would be great, but ultimately, it really is about mental fitness, mental sanity,
Yeah,
especially.
yeah, that's it.
We're going through the pandemic, which has affected so many people.
Yeah.
Do you know this show is about purpose and meaning? What's your definition of purpose and or meaning?
That's a really good question, man. I purpose and meaning. I talk a lot about this. Purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. What is that? And I think that's when you're living in congruence with your values,
Hmm.
right? So we've got this thing called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you're doing actions out there in the world that are contrary or in paradox to more in contrary to what your values are. Now, your values are like your internal rule book,
Hmm.
right? If you value health, so for instance, you say you really value your health, but you're off eating McDonald's every other day. It's like you're not living in congruence. And I think when you're on purpose, when you have more meaning, and you get a sense of fulfillment as a result,
Hmm.
you're actually you're in alignment. You're living congruently to who you are and what standards and values that you hold for yourself.
Hmm.
And so there's very few people, I think, that in this life that we come across that are living in total congruence with who they are. And I think that's, on Maslow's hierarchy, that's kind of like self-actualization to a certain extent as well. It's where you're really benefit if you're getting paid for who you are and your thoughts out there in the world,
Hmm.
and you may be a thought leader or whatever, but you're incongruent with that. I think that's incredibly powerful. I think that's the holy grail, to be honest.
Hmm.
I give it some context. I am my business. I there's no, like, if you meet me on a stage in front of 2,000 people, whatever, like, I am the same idiot off stage, right? And not one person and then another. And I think right now during this pandemic, people have actually taken, and this, people have actually taken this big global collective deep breath in, and
Hmm.
they've actually recalibrated on their meaning, their purpose, and what gives them fulfillment, right? And their happiness. So I think no other time in history where we've been given this opportunity to do that, because the world has stopped. We have to take a big deep breath in. We're not busy being busy right now as we were, and we're not the Lone Ranger. We're not just doing it on our own. Everyone's doing it,
Hmm.
and I think it's really cool, and I think it's a positive. And I think it's exactly what we probably needed. I know a lot of people have innovated in their businesses, adapted to new technology, and here we are on Zoom, mate. They've you know uh, they've decided, how I was, my old normal is not going to be my new normal.
Hmm.
How I was stuck in traffic every day going to work, and my commute time was this, and I was working from this office. Well, now I'm not. The company's changed. So this work-life definition has certainly changed quite dramatically for a lot of people. And
Hmm.
I think that we need to still take stock and recalibrate on what's that definition for us. And hopefully that will help people be more in alignment and have more fulfilled and happy lives. Because You know, there's a scary stat in America that 87% of people who go to work every day are what they call disengaged. So that's nearly 90% of people who work in North America go to work and are not really into what they do. They just get the paycheck and go home, and they're on, you know, hamster on the wheel kind of thing. So it's scary, you know, and I for one, sure, I can say I'm in total alignment with what I do. I've been doing this for 10 years. And sure, I've had to keep the blinkers on and go, no, Trav, this is what you do. Don't go bright, shiny object syndrome. Just stay on the track, and it served me well. So, you know, an inch wide, a mile deep, instead of an inch deep and a mile wide with a whole bunch of different things and being jack of all trades, master of none. I'm just doing that. But I think we've got to go and try and test a few things before we find what our thing is. And people are trying and testing different things more and more these days. 15 times most people change their careers now in their working life. 15 times. About 5-6 years ago, it used to be 7 times. So people are chopping and changing and trying out new things. So it's a good time to be able to do that.
Do you think the reason why people are changing careers or jobs is because there's a lack of direction, or is it just based on the way in which the economy is going?
I don't know if it's the economy. I think it's got to do with too much information, where we suffer from infobesity.
Yeah, I
right.
can relate to that.
And you know where we're going with this. So you know, there's way too many options now. There wasn't back in the day. The problem with that, there's no, you know, loyalty within companies is shocking. Culture within companies, because there's no loyalty, is really hard to maintain. A sense of engagement is harder when you've got, you know, a team that ships in the night and they just don't, you know. But we live, you know, the sign of the times maybe. We live in a more of a contractual world than an employment world now. So Richard Branson's Virgin said years ago that in the future, believe it or not, he said this about 10, 15 years ago, in the future, there will be no office buildings and everyone will contract to brands.
Tell me more about that.
Well, that's kind of how the world is actually going to. We're rather than looking for a job, everyone's creating their own jobs. You know, or they've got a side hustle now, you know, and that's what a lot of people have done during this pandemic is they've gone, you know what, I can't rely on this company as much as I used to give me that stability, that certainty, that security. So I need to start a side hustle or something online to make sure that, you know, it's like an insurance policy.
Right.
But that piece of entrepreneur, you know, like kind of forcing everyone to be an entrepreneur is not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone's built for entrepreneurship. Right. Because as you know, being a long-standing entrepreneur, not someone who starts something for 6 months, put it up on Instagram. I didn't sell any fucking t-shirts, so I'm out now. Go back to my job. An entrepreneur needs to stick at something for a long period of time, take 6 punches to the face, and fucking get up on the 7th. Straight up. You know, to really make their mark, to create a legacy, you know, to create a sellable asset. And at the end of the day, the impatience of people shopping and changing, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And, you know, because are people that determined? Have they got that much patience these days? Or to stick at something for more than a year, more than 3 years, more than 5 years, and just do the thing until it's right. Right. You know, you look at Jeff Bezos, right, and modern day, you know, superhero. Amazon didn't make any money for 20 years. Now he's the richest guy on earth. It's crazy. Like, can you think of something that are you that driven by a passion project or a business idea that you could stick at it for 20 years and not make any money.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, he's the richest by far now.
Yeah, I feel like
No,
people who are in those situations that keep going no matter what,
yeah,
and they
it's
just
complete belief, man. You know, like that's
purpose.
belief. Yeah,
Right.
purpose. It's purpose. It's belief. It's
Whole,
absolute determination. It's bold. It's courageous.
right.
And you can only admire a guy that does that. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Takes a lot of, well, a lot of boldness and courage and
Balls.
self-determination.
Balls,
A
dude.
lot
That's
of
what it fucking takes.
yeah, to really ensure that they're on the right path. And for many people, they just simply give up after the first second try, not knowing that
Yeah.
it's going to take 10,000 hours to be really good at your craft in order to get the company running. And as you
Yeah.
stated, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but for those that do grind and do want to start their own business, want more power to them too. It's great that they're following their dreams and their passion. I think that
But I think this can be, I think this can also be mapped into other areas of life. You know, people honestly give up way too easy,
right,
whereas they weren't allowed off the hook as easy in years gone by. I think it's too easy to jump ship
right,
because there's too many options out there, maybe, or there's just the next bright shiny object.
hmm,
You know, and if yeah, so I think that what we learn in business can be definitely mapped into other areas of life. You
hmm,
know, being sporting, being health, for instance, being relationships, being a good parent, being a number of different areas.
hmm. So how do you tell people to, how do you how do you get through challenging times? What are some of the uh, I guess, what advice would you give to my audience when they're going through roadblocks, trying to, let's say, build their own startup or business? How
Mate,
can you tap into
it's
some of the
yeah. Look, it's really you got to build your own sunset. And what I mean by that is you got to have your own vision.
hmm,
Like actually write it down. Remember this thing called, I mean, crazy, I know, it's so analog. We've got these things called a pen and paper. All right. Guys, write down some fucking goals. Like the thing is, there's more of a consciousness process. It's more conscious if you actually write stuff down rather than even typing it into your phone.
hmm,
Like there's studies that prove that actually going analog versus digital is more helpful. So
hmm,
there's a starter. A lot of people don't even write their goals, let alone their bucket list items. And did you know that we've got a 42% more likelihood of actually manifesting or showing up in our lives if you actually just write shit down?
hmm,
So there's a start. I know, miracle. Oh my God.
hmm.
Um, but if you actually just write,
That's probably how Post-it Notes 3M came to business, because you have these little sticky notes and people have to write them down, and when you do, you actually there's something about
yeah,
the psychological mind that actually gets you into action when you actually write it down. I agree with you.
yeah. And the thing is, there's got to be a regimented process around this. You know, do you do it every 90 days? Do you do it every year? How do you make yourself accountable? You
Mm,
know, well, a lot of people don't write goals down because they've disappointed themselves in the past. So it's fear of failure.
mhm,
And there's a level of fear of success. It's a real psychological kind of roundabout. A lot of people don't write stuff down because they don't want to disappoint themselves because they have in the past. So, oh no, because they worry about, the how too much.
mhm.
Worry about the what and the why. End of story.
Right.
But without actually putting a stake in the ground and saying what you want and why you want it, the how is never going to appear. But
Mhm,
if the what and the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out,
mhm. Right.
right? And I've seen that over the last 10 years, especially. I've seen that so many times. The fact is, check in with your level of inspiration around whatever goal that is. Like
Mhm.
if something's like, here's the thing, what's something that you want? What's a goal that you want more than anything else?
For me, gee, I'd love to build my own business, consulting business. That would be my goal.
Consulting in what?
It would be in leadership development. It would
Right.
be developing the next generation of leaders to lead organizations, society, communities, things like that.
Great. Now, two things. One, have you actually written that down?
I have, yes.
Great. Now, what you've got to do then is create what I call a success marker.
Mm,
Right? When will you know you're successful in that? Now that gets really specific. Like when can you think of your future self
mm,
and think of yourself as successful in that? And then you go, okay, I'll know I'm successful when I'll know I'm successful in my leadership consultancy business when blah 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 blah.
mhm.
You actually write that, and I bet it'll show up. And the thing is, that's more, it takes into all the SMART goal principle, specific, measurable, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
But you'll get to that point in your life and you'll go, it's something weird will happen. Like you'll hit it. You'll hit that success marker, maybe consciously, unconsciously, and go, holy fuck, this is weird. It's like a deja vu. I've been here. Shit, I'm living what my success marker. And that success mark is just simply that peg in the ground. And it's a lot more
So how do you
powerful.
define, sorry to interrupt, but before you go any further, how do you define what a success marker is? Like what?
Okay, example. I'll give you a realistic example. Um, I'll know when I'm successful in my business when I'm at a 5-star resort,
Mhm.
right? And I've written all this before. When I'm at a 5-star resort and on an island, and I have to go back because I hit it ages ago and I've developed it since, but this is one that stands out. I know I'm successful in my business when I wake up in the morning at a 5-star resort. I go and have breakfast at the buffet. I'm on an island. I use their Wi-Fi to check in on my phone.
Mhm.
I see that all the international, all the payments online have come through and my invoices are paid. There's no emails from my team. I mentally scan through all my expenses and I have none. I switch off my phone, finish my breakfast, and then decide what bucket list item I'm going to tick off today.
Mhm. So it's almost like you're completing a task and you're fulfilling a dream and you're on to the next thing. So one
Yeah.
follow-up question
Well,
is,
there's time, there's leverage, there's cash flow, there's
mm,
online business, there's team involved in that goal. There's me having the balls to go on a tropical island, and that literally happened in Samoa.
wow.
So I literally looked at my phone and I went, "Fuck, hang on, what have I? Hang on, I've been here before." It was really freaky. And then I got, oh shit, I've got nothing else to do. I switched off my phone and put it, and I just went, shit. It's like 8:30 a.m. I've just had breakfast. I'm like, what are we going to do today? I sort of mentally prepared to have a couple of hours of work and then we go out and go fucking surfing or whatever. And I was just like, shit, okay, let's go and do something.
Mhm.
And I was at a 5-star resort in Samoa, and I went surfing all day, and we went to waterfalls and blah blah blah. So that was, and the thing is, it was only at the end of that day that I realized, shit, I wrote this down years ago. So that's a very specific success marker.
Mhm.
Now, where will you be?
Mm-hmm.
What will you be looking at? What sort of information have just come into your world, or what sort of inputs have just come into your world to make you realize that you've been successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I've just got off, I'll know I'm successful when I've just got off stage in front of 1,000 people. And they've all bought my I've had 100 people buy my program on leadership or whatever it is. And I'm at the back of the room. The team has just told me, 100 people have just bought my program, and now I'm signing books.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fucking specific.
Yeah. Tell us more about, well, first of all, I step back. I want to cover a little bit about a book that you just released or published, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but before we go there, I want to talk about maybe it's in the minds of a lot of people, what is a bucket list? I know what it is, but to the audience who are listening, could you describe what that is, the process around it?
Yeah. Bucket list is all the shit you want to do before you die. Pretty straightforward. There was a movie starring Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson quite a few years ago. And the movie's shit. And I've based my whole career on it. Because why it's shit is because it's about two guys that get given a cancer diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
and then they write a bucket list. So there's something wrong with that picture. We shouldn't use death as a impending death or a use by date to get off our ass and go write a list of all the shit that we want to do before I die. So my whole mission, man, is to wake people up before they get given a use by date.
Mm-hmm.
So, but basically, I did a TED talk on this called "Life's Too Short" by Trav Bell. Might want to Google that or YouTube it, and it goes through a concept that I created called the My Bucket List Blueprint, and this is what the book's about. It's to help people write a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list. It's a 12-step system.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the last 10 years I've been talking about this, and it's really helped a lot of people, like create a more expansive, unearth, articulate, extract a more expansive and holistic list. But it's not just about, ticking a whole bunch of cool stuff off. It's really about how a person reverse engineers every aspect of their life in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's the growth of us on this journey towards these self-imposed destinations. But more importantly, it's about the person that exists on the other side. And that's the person you don't know yet. That's called our potential, right? And as human beings, when we experience that potential, when we experience that growth, within ourselves, that puts a smile on our face. And the Dalai Lama said, happiness is the meaning of life.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, people are dying at 40 and being buried at 80.
Mm-hmm.
Sheeple on the treadmill, in the matrix, rat race, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder. And so something's wrong with the picture, because the statistics on depression are going through the roof, anxiety going through the roof, even worse with COVID, but they were already shocking beforehand. Suicides, youth suicides, which really fucking gets me. The overprescription of antidepressants and these sorts of drugs. We've even got this thing now, and it's called the loneliness epidemic, right? And this is the adverse effect of social media, how we're supposedly more connected, but we're very much disconnected,
right,
as human beings. So I was due to give a talk to about 700 PhD students on this before this whole COVID thing broke here in Australia. And I went down the rabbit hole with this whole loneliness epidemic. It's an epidemic. We know what a fucking pandemic is. We know. so it's pretty serious. With all of these stats climbing, something's broken, and through myself, and now we've got a tribe of certified bucket list coaches around the world in 22 countries now teaching my stuff. And I'm the founder CEO of that company, and now we're all out there teaching this stuff, and we're combating. That's the fight that we're fighting. against these statistics to hopefully change the narrative, and give people tools to be able to self-manage out of this stuff instead of going on antidepressants. So I built this thing to help the former me.
Right. That's incredible. And you might already know this too, but one of the reasons why I launched this podcast is because I had a conversation with some of my close friends, and I asked them a simple question, what's your purpose in life? And a lot of them were struggling to answer that question because there was a sense of there's a lack of direction, it seems, that I'm getting from my friends,
Yeah.
and also like a lack of clarity, not knowing what they want to do both personally and professionally. And so I wanted to launch this podcast to help them one, tap into their own purpose and mission in life,
Yeah.
and drive engagement so that we can hopefully eliminate depression and anxiety. And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of people that don't have a sense of direction tend to experience more higher levels of stress and anxiety in their lives, and in compared to groups that do have a mission and a sense of purpose, they have something to chase for, something they feel like their sense of importance in the world
Yeah. Yeah.
is there, and so they act upon these actions in order to continue fulfilling the things that they need to fulfill in ultimately achieving their own purpose. And so that's what this show is really about.
Yeah, look, I've been saying for years, and defining a purpose, starting with why, like Simon Sinek says. So what I've created, in conjunction with all of that, is just a more tangible why,
Mm-hmm.
more tangible purpose, more tangible, meaningful end steps for people to actually compartmentalize and actually jump onto. So I say a bucket list is a tangible life plan,
Mm-hmm.
where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around, right?
Right.
So when you're engaged in your life plan, that you'll be definitely engaged in your business plan or career plan, because, at the end of the day, our businesses, careers, our jobs should produce two things and two things only, and that is cash flow and also time flow for us to do the shit that we want to do, right? With who we want to do it with. Double bonus, like you said before, if you actually love what you do and you're passionate about it and borderline obsessed with it, which is not a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then I think that's the holy grail. And you're of service to the community, you're hitting your values.
Right.
I think that's the holy grail. You love what you do, and it's giving you what you need, the
Mm-hmm.
two resources, time and money.
I agree.
But you ask most people what their goals in life are, let alone their purpose. Their goals in life is like pay off the house, put the kids through school, do a bit of travel when I'm older and possibly sicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, is that it?
Right. That's
Like,
like
and you'll
the
be,
normal, like, retirement, or like the normal path that many people
that's it.
take.
It's sold to us. It's sold to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it be retirement companies or whatever, but that dream of retirement is sold. But if that's the dream that we're all sold to, why the fuck are these stats climbing?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the wrong deal.
Right.
It's the wrong thing. So I believe, don't get me wrong, I believe in delayed gratification, but this whole society where I'll sacrifice my happiness to enjoy later is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because later, doesn't come for a lot of people. Life's cut way too short,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or they get given a use by date way before they're ready for it,
Mm-hmm.
in the form of a diagnosis. And like, fuck, I've got to suck it up. I've got to suck it up for 40 years before I get to enjoy maybe 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
where I can't even do the shit that I wanted to do when I was younger. Like, I believe in delayed gratification, but I don't think that's the only thing,
Right.
and I want people to be happier now. And then we reverse these stats. And what I've found is this bucket list idea has really helped people be happier now.
Mm-hmm.
Because a bucket list isn't about just the exotic travel and the 7 man-made wonders of the world and all that sort of stuff that you want to cross off, which is what a lot of people think of a bucket list is. It's all about travel, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. I think it's I think happiness is is enjoying the present moment. It's not thinking about the past or the future, but also but thinking of it as and rather than chasing happiness, find happiness like right now. I think to your point, that's what you're saying. And I also think that
Yeah.
meditation, maybe you have some concept ideas about how meditation contributes to people's happiness as well. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well, because
Look,
me, when I'm in a meditative mood, I have more of a sense of alertness, and I'm more in present with my life. And so
yeah,
to me, that that is happiness, is the ability to recognize my thoughts and my emotions right now, and finding happiness and peace, and also the process of achieving a goal, I think, is more fun than actually achieving the goal itself, because throughout that journey I'm learning so much about myself in the process that if I were to achieve the ultimate goal, to me, there would be nothing more to achieve, right? What are your thoughts?
I think, yeah, meditation is a tool to help people become obviously more present,
Mhm,
and to search inward, to discover those tools that are already within us.
mhm,
You can't sit around and meditate all day. We live on a commercial planet, and that's just how the world works. So,
right.
unless you want to become a monk and that's your thing, move to Tibet, good luck.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think it also goes hand in hand. It is literally a tool. I see meditation as a tool, just like I do exercise.
Mhm,
Any other exercise. It's mental. It's mental. It's a mental exercise. And meditation comes in a lot of different forms for a lot of people.
mhm,
So it's about really finding, it helps us get in flow where time stops, and we just get in that flow state, which is
mhm,
really the one of the basis pillars of positive psychology. And
mhm,
positive psychology is all about mindfulness and being present, but as well going towards our strengths and doing more of our strengths in our life, and doing more of the things that provide us purpose, meaning, and it is more on point with our calling.
mhm,
So I think building, analyzing it all, and including a meditative practice, and it might be really foreign to a lot of people, but I use the Headspace app. I've had someone speak to me and tell me to quiet my monkey mind, for at least 10 minutes to start off with. And then I feel absolutely amazing after meditation. But I see it as a tool. It's a tool that I strategically I strategically build into my daily plan. I try and do that in the morning, won't work. I try and do that in the middle of the day, I'll fall asleep.
mhm,
I try and do that at the end of the day after exercise, after doing weight training, and I'll get a better result. And I can go from kind of work mode to life mode, if you like, and be more present to everyone else around me. Or I use it before I deal with some of my coaching clients. So I've dealt with myself, and helps me scramble, um, and get clearer and get more present, obviously, on the next task at hand. And that's how, everyone's got their own way to implement it and do it. So that's what works for me.
mhm. So speaking of what works for you, this goes directly into my next question, and you might have already, answered this already. But if you had to choose your success habits, what are the top 3 success habits that you can offer to my audience?
Well, for me, it's I'm a big hacker on this. I really have analyzed this a lot. I've taught it in terms of productivity and doing your best work. I guess as an entrepreneur, and I work from home, and that's how I've designed my business. Even though we're a global business, I'm not good in an office. I talk too much. I distract everyone. I get distracted really easy. I'm better if I'm just left on my own, and not distracted by anyone. So we've got a remote work team in a bunch of different countries around the world, and that's how we've set up that business. But I've really taken a lot of years to get to this, like to design my life. I live in a really nice house. I'm looking at the surf right now. Literally out my window, I'm looking at the ocean. So I surf nearly every other day, and I'm looking at the ocean. It's big today and it's offshore, so it looks pretty good. So I probably want to wrap this up soon, mate. So at the end of the day, but I've designed it.
Surfing, so I know how you feel.
I've surfed my whole life. So I know exactly what every wave's doing. I can see it, which is good and bad. Behind you, I did a post on this the other day. It's like the surf was going off, and I had a heap of work to do. I'm like, oh, this whole lifestyle design has backfired on me because I'm not getting shit done. And so, but it does help me, But lifestyle design, like looking at what are those, because we've got two types of goals, right? We've got achievement goals, and we've also got habit goals. And achievement goals are like bucket list items. We've achieved something. We've finished the marathon. We've started that business. We've bought the car. We've done whatever. There's a tick at the end of it. There's a check. So I've done that. But a habit goal is like drinking 4 liters of water a day, or 3 liters of water a day, or going to the gym every single day. That's a habit goal versus an achievement goal. And I think when you go through and build out your day, literally on a 15 minute by 15 minute basis, you can hack really effectively those habit goals. And because I could do a timesheet of your week right now, and say, all right, write down what you're doing every 15 minutes. And that's like a crystal ball. I could safely predict what your relationships are going to be like, what your friendships are going to be like, whether you're going to be single or happily married or whatever, what your health is going to be like, what your business, your income, your wealth is going to be like. I could look at everything just in that snapshot. And you can move those chess pieces around and go, you know what, this is not working for me. I've got to implement a new habit. I'll give an example, and I've already done it this morning. At 4:30, we wake up. We go to bed relatively early. We wake up, and I'm on a mission to read 52 books in a year. Right? Now that's why I'm doing that, because the best CEOs in the world do that. They read a book a week, basically. So I'm like, fuck that. I've got to lock this in, because I've got to become a better CEO. And it's a bit of a bucket list challenge for me too. So get up at 4:30, my partner, so I read out loud, and we have a coffee in bed, and I read out a chapter a day. And it's amazing how you just chip away at it, and how much you actually get done. But more importantly, it makes me accountable. She learns, I learn. By speaking out loud, gets everything moving. I actually remember stuff. I retain the information better. We do that. I either go for a bike ride after that, or we go for a walk and go from there. So that's actually part of our daily routine. But it's a habit goal that's en route to, I'm learning, but I'm also en route to actually achieving an achievement goal, which is a bucket list item of mine, 52 books. So that's a new one. What's that?
When did you start it, and how are you doing with it?
Good. Yeah, but that being said, mate, the books started at kind of war and peace, but now they're down to like fucking Mr. Men books, like Mr. Tickle. So they've gone from like really thick to so if you've got a one
you're learning
page.
how to hack into the process is what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm a very determined bastard, so I'm willing to get 52 books by the end of the year. But if you've got a one-page ebook, I could really use it right now. So,
I'll look. I'll look. But,
yeah.
chances are probably slim to none.
only joking, but so I can tick it off. But no, I bookend. So I've designed the life. I've bookended the day with some exercise cardio in the morning, which is normally bike riding for me, and I get to talk shit with my mates, have a coffee afterwards. Good for mental health. Do that around here where I live, and then at the end of the day, at about 5:30, Tracy and I, my partner, we go to the gym. So we do that 4 times a week. We bike ride 4 times a week. Weekends are a bonus. But we've really hacked into that. Bookending the day is so important when you're working for yourself, normally by yourself, and then checking in at also during the day. When is your sweet spot? When are you most creative? When are you most productive? Doing a 2.5 hour block in your most productive time during the day, which for me is morning. Then like that can be the 20% that affects the 80%, the 80-20 kind of rule at play there. There is so much more to this question that I could literally, and I think I am writing a book on it, about these habit hacks, because I do a lot of this stuff with my private clients, including these success markers that I was talking about. So it's all one of the same to get the most out of your day, so you live a more purposeful life at the end of the day, and you're on point. You're not doing the shit that is just fluff.
Right. So just a few last questions. What or who inspires you and why?
Who inspires me? The way Elon Musk thinks is, enviable about how big he thinks. And then he just goes for it. And he's a bit of a loose cannon too, so which I love. And like the other day, like he's got $3 billion companies, and then he puts out an EDM dance track, and then develops it, and then sells something like, I don't know how many of those flamethrowers did he create and then sell? Like they all sold out in like an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
The guy's loose like that. I don't know how well his family life is going, but at the end of the day, or his health, but at the end of the day, he is what it is. So that can be admired. I think from a branding point of view, I love what Richard Branson has done. I love different people for different reasons, like Grant Cardone. I admire what he's done and what he's doing. Seems to be the genuine real deal. And it's hard to look through the bullshit too of what people put up on social media and whether they're full of shit or not. So I'm really cautious about who I subscribe to, who I let information into my world from. And I actively unsubscribe, and I actively unfollow people that just aren't serving me anymore. But if I want to find out something about a particular topic, or I've got a goal, like I set quarterly goals and stuff, and if I want to just compress the learning over the next 90 days, I will obsess about 1, 2, maybe 3 people, and find out how they think, read all their stuff, subscribe to their stuff, and just unsubscribe from everyone else, and just zero in on whatever that goal is.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the age of digital information is just too much information that's being presented at us, and one of the things that we need to do better at is, keep things simple. And if you have to unsubscribe to, the people that you thought that were benefiting, your life at one point, I mean, to make your life more simple, I think that that's the way to go, because
Oh, dude,
it's just too much
it's
information that we just can't take in.
yeah.
So,
I used to run events, right? And one of the exercises that I used to do was I'd get everyone to get their mobile phone out. We talk about toxic relationships and, and people in our lives that are serving a purpose, who are adding, not subtracting from our energy.
right.
So I get everyone to get their mobile phones out, cell phones, and literally delete the names and numbers from the people that we've lost contact with, that aren't in our lives anymore, that just are shit people to be around, the kinds of people that you feel that you need a wash or a holiday after you catch up with them,
Right.
Versus the kinds of people that you feel that you've been fulfilled, you've been energized by.
Right.
So after doing that exercise, people are maybe deleting hundreds of people, and we power delete, not overthink it, just go with intuition and go, nah, this person's dickhead.
Right.
And at the end of it, people are just like, like this burden has been lifted, and they feel so much lighter. And I've done this exercise time and time again. And like we're carrying around that burden, that energetic burden, every single day on our person. You just think about that. And it's a crazy thing to do, but I think scaling that out, we need to do that in our inboxes. We need to do that with our time and be really selective with who we're spending time for. Our time is not a fucking charity.
Right. Yeah.
We really do need to check in with ourselves and how we're banging out our day, and how and who we're spending it with. And what we're and making sure that we're doing the stuff that is really escalating our goals, that is really pushing into what we define as successful for ourselves.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate those thoughts. Where can people find you should they want to connect?
I'm from the future, man. It's going to be pretty hard. So no, I go to thebucketlistguy.com. That is me. If anyone wants to suss out about being a bucket list coach, check out bucketlistcoach.com/webinars, or on the gram. I think that's how the millennials say it, mate. Is that right? On whatever.
Instagram.
I'm showing Generation X. I'm like a baby boomer normally. Instagram is bucketlistguy.travbell. But here's what I want you to do is if you can post, or if people go through to YouTube and put in "Life's Too Short" by Trav Bell, watch my TED talk. I did that a few years ago, but it's still relevant. I challenge you, Kong, and I challenge all your watchers and listeners to watch my TED talk and then write out their bucket list and then literally send it to me. All right, trav@thebucketlistguy.com is my email, my personal email. I want you to watch it and then send it to me. And I know most podcast hosts do this. Just saying.
Yeah. And so what should I expect? What should we expect from you? Are you gonna?
I have magical, futuristic ways to make that happen. To make some of your bucket list items. Yeah, I got superpowers that may help you do your bucket list items sooner rather than later.
I love that. Thank you so much for your contribution to me and to my audience. We would really appreciate that.
Cool, bro.
Well, folks, you guys know where to find Trav, as mentioned, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate, and go on and enjoy your day and go out surfing.
Yeah, will do, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.